time is it? What time is it? What time is it? Right now!
Welcome to Talking About Sports, right here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill, our favorite place. We're glad to be here. We're number one because you make us number one. We're joined by an all-star panel from Penn State. Reggie, what are they ranked now?
Number 4, baby. Let's go.
Number 4,
Let's
Penn
go.
State, the Carolina Panthers, and ESPN, and back from a long whirlwind tour of the Orient, Scandinavia, and the subcontinent.
Parts unknown.
Parts unknown. John Tobias, JT. And JT, first of all, I got to prop you here before we get into our quick first segment.
Okay.
You told us about this guy. You worked Kansas City Chiefs post-game and pre-game exhibition season, preseason. You told us about some guy named Kareem Hunt. You said, this guy, I think he's going to be really good. You better watch out for this guy.
Yes.
Boom, he's blowing up.
He's blowing up. And the thing about it is that it's all predicated on attrition, because if Spencer Ware had not torn his ACL out of LSU, we don't know how much burn Kareem Hunt would have gotten, but he has really, really been a prolific back. And it just goes to show you that you can find a lot of quality players, Reg, in these mid-major conferences.
Listen, man, at the end of the day, players are everywhere, and the only thing you have to do is have a good scouting department, get enough tape on guys, and you can figure out where the good football players are all over the country. Whether it's and that goes for basketball as well. Mm-hmm. You can find athletes everywhere. You just have to do the work and do the research to find them.
Tariq Cohen from A&T.
Tariq Cohen is another one. Absolutely.
And guys, one of the big things we're talking about, and we'll get back to college football and pro football in a little while. We've this big thing with Adidas and a couple of programs and some maybe some coaches could be involved. Is going up, and right now we have on the phone from Virginia Beach, Virginia, I believe, Charlotte Hornets 1.0, also played for my San Antonio Spurs, the New York Knicks, among other teams. We're talking about everyone's favorite Tar Heel from a while back, not too far because he's still younger than me. That makes him young. We're talking about J.R. Reid, and J.R., just hold on a minute, trying to get our device here in order to where we can actually hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, great. Thank you, JR, for being here. Great having a Virginia native and former Tar Heel and former Hornet and Spur, among other teams, on the show. JR, quickly here, what was when you first? I know you probably haven't had a time to digest all of this, but what can you tell us from what you've read or heard about this NCAA investigation involving some coaches and Adidas from what we heard right now?
Well, I'm a lot like a lot of people out there. I'm just here trying to digest all this information that's come out, because not all of it has come out. And for me, just my opinion personally, that if Adidas is caught up in it, who was the little fellow on the shoe wars, just getting a good place in the shoe game right now, if they're involved, I'm almost certain everyone else is. So it's going to be really interesting here. I've got my popcorn, and I'm going to be sitting here waiting and watching for that other shoe to fit the drop, because it's going to get ugly.
I thought of that earlier today when I was starting to do some research on it. If Adidas is involved, you got to think maybe there's Under Armour, and they're tight with the Maryland program, Nike, which seems to be in a lot of other places. You would think if one's involved, we're not saying anyone is by matter of fact. We're just saying that we're just speculating. It could be just what we were hearing, though, right now. Other teams, other players, other coaches, not players, but other coaches could be involved.
I'm never going to be the guy to start throwing out names and teams under the bus until we get some solid information. I would never want to do that to anyone, but there's a lot of schools, and all I can really talk about was in my era of college and high school recruitment. And you knew who was paying. We used to call it payola. You knew who the guys were that were paying. You knew by the assistant coaches that they hired and who they dealt with. I never dealt with those schools. My father put the fear of God in them early on and let them know that there was no place for that type of recruitment with me. And if they did so, they'd be out the door. So we never saw the horror stories that a lot of the other kids did, but this is really going to be a black mark on college basketball, but I believe it needs to be broken down first and built back up correctly.
Hey, JR, Reggie Walker here. And by the way, Jalen, good player. Just wanted to throw that out there. Saw him play in high school.
I'm sorry, say again?
I said, by the way, Jalen, good player. Saw him play in high school. Just wanted to throw that out there for you.
Oh, well, thank you.
In terms of this particular situation, and we're talking, this thing, obviously there's discussion that the tentacles may reach upwards of 40, 50 schools. Some reports are saying a lot of different coaches. But, what are your thoughts on the fact that, the NCAA itself has taken a lot of pretty much a beat down the last few years about how they handle investigations and how strong-armed they can be at times. This is a situation, obviously, it involves money. The FBI can go follow the money. They can subpoena those types of things. How do you think some people right now are backtracking maybe on their feelings of get rid of the NCAA and tell the NCAA to stop trying to mandate things and saying, you know what, we'd rather have the NCAA than the FBI?
Oh, I'm sure they would. But this still falls on their plate. This should have been handled a long time ago. Stuff from Carolina with the football program that the informant has been, has ties before to other situations. So this is not new. You guys have known about the situations. We've known about it. I just wish the NCAA would have been a little bit more proactive, and we didn't need to get FBI agents, the agency in here now, looking at putting assistant basketball coaches in prison over trying to get colleges and get players to come to your colleges. I think it's a little overkill. I think if the NCAA has stepped up and been more proactive and got aboard on this earlier, we wouldn't have been this far along as we are right now.
Do you think this will force people to, I shouldn't say force, but do you think this will create a situation where people feel a little more compelled when the NCAA comes around to ask questions because they can't subpoena certain things? You think people will be more compelled to speak up?
I think so. I believe they will now. And also I believe people will be more compelled to speak up because the FBI has said, we know your modus operandi.
Right.
We know how you work. We know how it all goes down. We know who the bad men are, how you meet people, what you do. So if you've got some information, you better come up now and discuss it to make it light on yourself. So we haven't seen it. I've been tweeting a little bit about it. I told us, man, there's people up in there singing like Freddie Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Brown, when you say that right now, they are saying it because no one wants to go to jail behind this game of basketball that we love so much.
Jodeci got back together behind this one.
Man, I'm telling you, they're warming up. They're in the back, they're warming up right now. Because look, no one, as much as you love and respect the coach that you work for in that program and that university, no one is going to go to prison for being a bag man for someone else.
No.
You know what I mean? These coaches aren't making anything. They're not even making the money that they're delivering to the kids.
Exactly.
They're not even barely making that much. So it's going to be very interesting, like I said, to see how this all plays out and the names that start rolling out and the programs. So that's what I'm interested in seeing.
All right, J.R. Reid, former Charlotte Hornet, North Carolina Tar Heel. This is Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
We're talking about sports on
We're talking about sports at ADS. I don't gotta say that.
We're talking about
sports in, oh God, I forgot.
ADSN.
What is it?
ADSN.
ADSN, okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about sports.
Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports.
Talking sports.
Talking about sports. We're talking about sports on ADSN.
Talking about sports on ADSN.
Good.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. On the phone, our special guest, former Charlotte Hornet, North Carolina Tar Heel, J.R. Reid. J.R., we're talking about this Adidas situation with college sports. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
JR, this is John Tobias. I'm one of the statisticians here. I've been a big fan of yours ever since you played for the Kempsville Chiefs.
Well, thank you. Shout out 757. Thank you.
Yep, 757. The one thing I want to ask you is that obviously, like you said, this has been going on for a long time, but there's kind of uncharted waters when the FBI comes into play because,
Right.
There's one thing from getting suspended or fired, another thing in terms of going to prison. Do you think that it's going to get a lot worse than what we've already seen within these past 24 hours?
Absolutely. When the feds, I've never had to deal with the feds. We've all had some friends that might have fallen astray of the law in the day, back in the day, but the ones that I have, they said the last thing that you want to do is have the feds to come in and start talking to you.
Because they have over a 9% conviction rate.
Yeah, you don't want anything to do with that. So if they're telling you to tell what you know to save yourself this time, they're going to do it. Because this goes into a whole nother realm. This is so much bigger than just basketball now.
They better get their Luther Vandross on.
Man, they better warm those pipes up, man. Mic check. But they do, man. When you're starting, in this game that we love and just trying to make your program competitive and getting where you want to be, you've come to this, and now you're going to start facing prison time, man. This is a really ugly situation.
JR, one of the people that's more prominent among the list of people mentioned as a former Charlotte Hornet, probably not that we know of, a player that you played as a teammate. You might have. John Tobias hasn't given me all that research yet. Chuck Person's been named a prominent player.
Yes.
I mean, he's a big name, and I would imagine you've kind of heard, as it is over the years, people want the big names to go down and they get the little people to sing to bring the big names down.
Yeah, and this is how the heads usually work. They get someone lower on the totem pole, and then they work you. And yes, I played with Chuck Person. Was a great teammate. The rifleman could shoot that thing, and a horrible craps player. But he was.
That's why he needs some money now.
Snake eyes.
Hey, I don't know, but man, it hurt me to see that Chuck was wrapped up in this, and I just hate that all the assistants are getting thrown under the bus first. Because and I know it's not the assistants who are controlling this situation, who gets money and who doesn't, who to go meet. So I just hope those 8 names or so pitchers they left blacked out on the news reports yesterday come up today, and we can see what some of these people, the real heavy hitters in here, not the low entry-level guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me, too. I mean, one of the names that we don't hear wrapped up in this, but anybody that's been around the world of sport, and especially the world of basketball, would know Sonny Vaccaro basically kind of laid this thing out years ago, and everybody kind of just looked at it, whatever. The NCAA kind of obviously moved past it. A lot of people moved past it, thought it was no big deal. Clearly, the FBI decided they were paying attention.
Oh, yeah. And it is. I tweeted about last night. That's how I started. I was on that first engagement between the big shoe companies, Nike, and high school basketball. We went to that first Nike athlete camp at Princeton with Ben Wilson and everyone else that was there. Well, I was in the first group that they allowed it. And we thought it was such a fantastic idea because more than just playing basketball, in the morning we had classes. We had Princeton University professors working with us on study habits, how to read, and you have all your stuff situated for college. They taught us so many things, how to study much better when we got to college. So it was just bigger than basketball, but we realized, too, it was a business. It was a way for them to get in touch with us, contact with us, get us associated with their product, because from there, I became very good friends with Sonny Vaccaro. That I tweeted about last night. What I tweeted about was from that engagement I had with them. All I got was a lot of great gear. Because my background was we didn't need anything. My father had already told me, if they give you something, they own you. And we didn't need anything. My father and mother worked hard enough for me. I had everything I needed. Money wasn't a problem for us. So I did meet Sonny. Sonny took great care of us for gear. Had my high school team decked out in the best Nike. And he was good for basketball. You called and you talked to Sonny, he would take care of you. But now to see all of that progress into what we have today is really ugly. And I just wanted everything to come out so we can start to process all this information.
Let me ask you this. If it wasn't so much for, and I got to watch how I say this because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but if basketball was still more, and I'll use football as kind of the analogy, people still recruit football players from their high school. Basketball, they no longer recruit through the high school. They recruit through the AAU coach, which really they really have no scruples as it relates to really caring about a kid's eligibility, if you really think about it. How much has that been a factor in this?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question, and you're absolutely right. Now high school coaches college coaches rarely deal with their high school coaches anymore. It's the AAU coaches. And a lot of these AAU coaches don't have any basketball background. Well, I should say some of them. But it's ugly, and this has been going on forever, and everyone's known it. and it's taking the fans that come in now and shine a spotlight on it. And I think, like a lot of other people were talking about last night, I think that it needs to be broken down. And this might be the ugliest way to do it, but I think from here we can build and get college basketball back to where it needs to be. And we can start having a serious conversation about paying players, paying student athletes a fair amount of money so things like this don't have to happen. So guys don't have to go through bagmen and unscrupulous agents to try to get money when they might need it.
Well,
so I think this could be a really good thing for it after it's all said and done.
Yeah, JR, you talk about a good point. I went to school. I worked in the off season. I had to keep it all, under the table. But had to keep my money. But we didn't get any. We weren't getting any cash on the side. At least I don't know how it was at Penn State,
No.
Reggie. But I'm all for paying guys. I mean, because it seems like as we've been reading, these agents, whether shoe guys or loan guys or whoever, are promises to get your first cut of your first pro contract. The big coaches, the head coaches have shoe deals. Everyone but the players are making money on this deal, and they're the product. They're the stars. When the whistle blows, they're the guys who are the entertainment.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. I didn't get the big money to go to school like our Kevin Tolbert got. We didn't get the big dollars like he got. But in our era, when I was in college, which college players cannot do now, we were able to work like summer camps.
Right.
And make money.
That's what
now,
I did.
the Brian Adrian camp in Charlotte, those camps were paying us $800, $1,600 for 2 days of work.
Man, I was at the wrong
For
camp.
us, that was a lot of money. That was a lot of money. So we knew that money had to stretch us all the way through the season. So we made good money during the camp circuit, but we knew we couldn't splurge and use that. But now they've taken that away from college guys. They can't do that. So you tell me where these guys are supposed to get disposable income. They need money for gas, clothes, send home. Where are they supposed to go? And I think this probe has shown us where they're going and getting that money.
Well, JR, we're going to ask you, and hopefully you can stay over for a break. We're going to get to a break. John Tobias is going off to he's working Utah, BYU. Is that right, JT?
That is correct. Yeah.
Utah, BYU on Friday night, and Saturday, who you got?
Houston and Temple.
Two good games.
Philly.
You're
Ed Oliver, shout out to him.
You're spanning the globe more than Jim McKay. So don't go anywhere. We're coming right back with Reggie Walker and J.R. Reid, our special guest, right here on Talking About Sports. Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Reggie Walker, Kevin Casey, and on the phone, our special guest, former Charlotte Hornet, North Carolina Tar Heel, J.R. Reid. J.R., we're talking about this Adidas situation with college sports. I know you've got other commitments, but tell us about what do you have going on?
We had a camp I was doing in the mountains of Western North Carolina. This year with our schedule, we weren't able to do it, but we did 6 or 7 years up there. Fabulous bunch of people. And for me, I've had opportunity to go all around the country and do camps with kids, which I love, and I've been blessed with the sport of basketball, and with my father being a coach and my mom playing basketball in college, it's the sport. The sports have been really good to me and taken me a lot of places. So I try to pass that along by going and getting an opportunity to work with kids and letting them know that, it's not just, with the hopes and aspirations of getting to the NBA, but it builds character, teaches you to work well with others. And, and that's what life is about, getting along with others and being able to be having a nice balance. So that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of that point and just wanting to work with kids and just help them grow as people, how much do you think that obviously the publicity of the amount of money, I mean, I know obviously when you played, the numbers would kind of get out there at times, but it wasn't as public knowledge. Now the $30 million contracts, everybody knows what everybody's making. How much do you think that has enhanced the concept of parents trying to raise an NBA player and doing whatever they can to get whatever money they can on that journey to getting there?
Well, I hope there's not parents. I mean, I know the parents will want their kids to be successful in athletics, but for me, my dad even told me, even though I always like to say, man, when I get up to, I never think I hit a home run. I know I started on third base from my genetics I got from my parents to play. And my dad I played a few years in the NFL, had an opportunity to taste that life and play in the NCAA. So I was blessed. And, so a lot of parents who are getting behind their kids and thinking there's a formula for it, there isn't. You just going to have to work, you grind, and if it's meant to be, it's going to happen.
Right.
But the money has really, really escalated. And, we made good money when we played. It's now that the players are making what they're really worth. These guys are making what they generate.
Right.
And I love it. I love what LeBron has done. I love that he's unselfish. I love that he's brought all his high school buddies in with him, and they all have been successful in the business field. I like what Kobe Bryant has a mutual fund. We would never seen things like this. Michael Jordan was the first one to show us the blueprint and how it could be done, and then Shaq came along and added his touch to it. And now, just to see what the NBA guys are doing off the court with LeBron and production company that he's had, it's a wonderful time to be a professional athlete.
Well, JR, now you mentioned the Michael Jordan and the Hornets. What do you think? What's the outlook look like for the Hornets? We got this Malik Monk, a guy who says he squirrel hunts a lot in Arkansas. They seem like they got a good nucleus of guys coming back. What do you look at them? Are they a playoff team, a fringe team, or could they go somewhere?
I think that Mike is looking for them to be a playoff team, as do I. They took a slight step back last season. But I think people aren't talking about it. But the addition of Dwight Howard is going to be remarkable for them. Because I think the problem that they had last year was in paint defense. They didn't intimidate anyone in the paint. Didn't really have a shot blocker. As well as Cody played last year, they still didn't have that shot blocker inside. And I think just his presence, I know we're not going to get Dwight Howard of old, but if we just get Dwight Howard who can protect the rim, along with Nicholas Batum who can have a little better season than he had last year, with a mix of young players, I think you're going to see Charlotte make some noise during the playoffs this season.
And conversely, what about the Tar Heels? You can't get better than what they did last year. They're hitting on all cylinders. They're well coached. They seems like they don't just rebuild; they reload.
Man, they've been saying that for decades when they had Coach Smith, and even the year before last, they went to the finals.
Yep.
And should have easily have won that championship and went for our last shot. So this team, Coach Williams is a magician when it comes to it. Getting his teams prepared, but most importantly, getting them to buy into the philosophy that he coaches. The pass first, score second mentality is just not what we talk about. That's the way we live it. And Coach Williams has done a fabulous job of being able to pass that on to his current players.
I like their sports information department. As a reporter, I cover their games, and I think Steve Kirsten does a heck of a job at North Carolina, both for football and basketball. So I really like what they're doing in terms of how they promote the product and they make everything more accessible to reporters who in turn get everything out going. But JR, thank you so much for being a part of the show. We're going to let you tell us real quick what you're doing these days in addition to you're not doing the camps. What do you got going on these days? What are you doing nowadays?
Well, I've had an opportunity now to be semi-retired. I've worked with ACC Digital Network and Raycom. I've got an opportunity to test the broadcasting waters a little bit. But what I really enjoy most is getting an opportunity to go see my old teammates. I go up quite often with King Rice and Jamal Meeks up in Monmouth. I work with their bigs. I'm always available for my teammates to come and work out their guys. So I've been able to live through them through osmosis almost and with their teams and what they're doing on the basketball court. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and hopefully this year I'll be following the Hornets a lot more closely. Since Buzz Peterson is now assistant GM there, I think now we'll be talking to him a little bit more and following the progress a little closer.
Well, JR, thank you so much. And you work on it. Frank Kay's our good friend from Raycom, and you want to work on broadcasting? Hey, come right in studio when you're here with the Hornets. You're here for a game. You can come into the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. They got great appetizers. Reggie always steamrolls the steak nachos. But
yes, sir.
We got plenty of stuff here, even for you, JR. We got it. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, man, you hit me 45 seconds ago reading the menu off, dude. You could have stopped way back then. You tell Kev, he knows who I am. Kev makes it happen, man. You got some food, I'm there for you guys. Let me know.
Pretzels. They got soft pretzels with cheese. They got wings. They got the steak quesadillas, the steak nachos. What else they got here, Reg?
Oh, man, I love the steak nachos. That'll get me right there.
That's all you need. I'm telling you, that's all you need. That's all you need.
We're going to eat 2 plates.
That's all you need.
All right, J.R. Reid, former Charlotte Hornet, North Carolina Tar Heel. This is Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, J.R.
Thanks, J.R.
Appreciate it. Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Kevin Casey along with Reggie Walker. Reg, the sad reality of the Carolina Panthers is that I'm watching the game and I'm seeing this Saints offense that we've talked about since day one go up and down the field against a very good Panther defense.
Yeah.
But I think they were a little bit tired. The Saints just went up and down the field, and Carolina, to me, could not sustain much offense. And I think the first drive, Carolina took the opening possession, go all the way down the field, get in the red zone. In fact, inside the 10 with a 1st and goal. They had to settle for a field goal. I think that set the tone for the day.
Yeah, anytime you can't finish drives with touchdowns, it can be frustrating not only to the offense but to the entire organization, really. The coaching staff, the players on offense, and the players on defense, because anytime you take a drive like that, 10-plus plays, and you march down the football field and you don't walk away with 7, it's deflating. It just absolutely is. I'm not going to sit here and try to sugarcoat it. It's frustrating, and that's one of the marks of this team. It's one of the things that, really any team that's going to be successful, your percentages in terms of touchdowns to field goals in the red zone has to be high. You got to get touchdowns, and when you're not getting touchdowns and you're giving up 7 on the other end, all of a sudden you start to become a one-dimensional team because you fall behind.
It took them out of I think what their regular routine would have been. You pointed it out, because they got behind because the Saints were putting it in the end zone.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the Panther locker room after they beat Buffalo, and it wasn't you've been in locker rooms. It wasn't a jubilant locker room. It was just everybody was still uptight. They knew that 9-3. Steve, people were still on edge despite a win. Most they're always going to say the same thing: a win's a win, we'll take it, and all that. But it wasn't jubilant. They weren't happy. Then I go into the Saints locker room after the Carolina game. I'm talking to Ted Ginn and A.J. Klein and some of the other players for the Saints. They're happy. They were going to London, not to mention that, but they did what they came out to do. They felt like they were redeemed. They said, this is who we are. We're a team that can move up and down the field on anybody because we just put a lot of points on a very good defense.
And that's the one thing about Sean Payton's system that I think people forget. It looks different than what most teams are used to seeing. Drew Brees, as I said before, he's one of the few quarterbacks in the NFL that the majority of his drops are 5 and 7 yards as opposed to 3 and 5 yards. That's a big difference. You have to change where you're trying to get to in terms of your pass rush. You have to cover a little bit longer down the football field. You have more double move type of routes. You have a more vertical passing game, which all puts a strain on the defense, and they spread you out as well horizontally. So anytime you deal with an offense that spreads you completely out horizontally, they spread you completely out vertically, and oh, by the way, in the process of all of this, your quarterback a probably Hall of Famer in Drew Brees.
And not probably, it is.
Yeah, he is. A Hall of Famer in Drew Brees has a different launch point than everybody else, and he's a precision passer. That's a very daunting task to slow that offense down consistently. And the crazy thing about it is, even after that, the Panthers are still number 1 in the league in total defense in terms of yardage at 252 yards a game.
I'm watching this game, and I'm not trying to disparage Cam Newton because he's a top-tier quarterback, former MVP. I still see rust. I still don't see. This would have been his maybe his last preseason game had he not been hurt preseason.
Yep.
I see Drew Brees out there. He's hitting guys in the hands.
Yeah.
And he's not missing guys. When and the Carolina's defense didn't get to him all that often because they couldn't because the Saints, despite playing with 2 substitute tackles on each side, they ran the ball. Alfred Kamara came in, Adrian Peterson, Mark Ingram, and not just running the ball, they were getting hit with screens. Not
Absolutely.
To mention they had Ted Ginn, who was open a whole lot during the game. Then he was overthrown once, but they had Carolina on their heels because they couldn't just pin their ears back and rush because they had them behind the scoreboard. They had the Saints' balanced offense kept Carolina guessing most of the day.
Yeah, and anytime you have balance on offense, it allows you to do a lot of things, and it forces the defense to, like you said, be out of rhythm, be off pace, be off kilter. But to add to that, you said something interesting that I like there, screen game. Anytime you run a screen game, you use draw plays, that pass rush has to make a lot of decisions. They can't just play reactive, instinctive football. They got to think a little bit more. And we talk about it all the time. You know this. You've been around the game of football a long time. On defense, if you're thinking, you're not playing very well. You have to be instinctively playing the game of football on defense because everything happens so fast. It's in a vacuum. You don't have time to think as a defensive player, especially in the NFL.
We saw Thomas Davis go off. He was nicked up but came back. Carolina is still without Greg Olsen and will be for several more weeks. And now we're hearing some grumblings from Captain Munnerlyn about playing time. I think and that's part of my point about the week 2, how not everyone was happy. But I think that the Saints did a lot of things on offense that maybe Carolina wasn't expecting. I don't know why you wouldn't expect them, but I think the DBs were doing a very good job. Kuechly was doing a good job. The pass rush was there at times.
Yes.
But it wasn't sustained pressure, and I don't think the Saints felt threatened because anytime they wanted to, they could run, they could screen, or they could hit the deep ball.
Well, and I think the other side of it really for the Saints is they had a lot of confidence in their defense to be able to stop this offense. And when you have confidence in a defense that, let's face it, historically, at least over the last 4 or 5 years, has been putrid at best at times, when you walk into a situation on the road against a division opponent like the Carolina Panthers, a team that 2 years ago was in the Super Bowl, and you feel that confident with your defense, that says a lot about the organization and the way that Sean Payton's running that team down there. And I said in the offseason, I didn't think the Saints would be great on defense, but they actually had a semblance of paying attention to building a better defense than they have in the past. Yes, they did get rid of guys like Brandon Cooks, but they made decisions to add guys on defense to try to get better on that side of the football.
I like their receivers right now. Cooks was tough to get rid of, but you got quality coming back. I like what they're doing. Manti Te'o had a good game. Unsung, you won't see him in the stat sheet per se. A.J. Klein knows this offense.
Yeah, he does.
And he knows. And I think that was a key in this game because he knew what Carolina was going to run. He told everybody. But I think the key player, not to mention A.J. Klein, maybe two keys on defense for the Saints. A.J. Klein and Kenny Vaccaro, the safety, had a deflection that led to an interception, and he himself had an interception, and he was playing all over the field.
Let me tell you what I don't like about this Carolina Panthers offense right now. The number 48. That's
Steven Davis?
That's the amount. Close.
Oh, all right.
That's the amount of touches Stewart has had total this season. That should be 48 carries, or probably more than that. Because they're only letting him touch the ball 16 times a game. I'm not saying anything bad, but I'll say it like this.
I don't think he's been productive when he's gotten the ball.
Well, they're only getting about 3.7 yards a clip running the football, which is not good enough.
He looks to me like he's just looking for a place to fall down.
Well, and he's also looks to me like he's a guy that doesn't know what his role is. And when you have a guy that's
his role
supposed
is
to be
not to be dressed up in like superhero costumes around like he's Super Mario or one of the Ninja Turtles or something.
But if you're going to be the lead back, you got to have more than average of about 14 carries a game. I realize Christian McCaffrey is this new weapon that people like. Curtis Samuel's there as well. But there's no reason. Christian McCaffrey, actually, if you add up, Christian McCaffrey has 18 receptions. He has 43 total touches. That's just passing and rushing and receiving. So if you add in the kick returns and the punt returns, right, you start adding that up, he's touching the football more than Stewart. To me, I'm not going to say it's an issue, but you might want to get that a little more balanced.
I'm more old school, Reggie. I'd like to see running the ball because I think the run sets up the other things.
You have to run the football and dominate the line of scrimmage. If you don't play on the other team's side of the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football, you're going to get beat in football games. If you watch even back to the Buffalo game, a lot of people, the Panthers' defense was dominant. The pass rush was really good, and Tyrod Taylor was running for his life. But if he had a second more and a lot of opportunities, he had some chances to hit some shots down the field because there were some guys that were able to get open. So, and I don't mean to take shots at this defense.
They win the game.
Absolutely. I don't mean to take shots at this defense, but you've got to find a consistency on offense. And here's the other piece of it. Between Kelvin Benjamin, who's nursing a little bit of a knee, and Devin Funchess, they've got 19 receptions. Now, they're at they're 13 and a half yards a catch when they get the football, but Cam Newton's only averaging 6.8 yards per attempt. So there's a disconnect in there somewhere. It tells you when they can get those guys the ball, they're getting big plays. They need to get them the ball more. We
haven't seen the injury report yet. I think Kelvin Benjamin's going to be at least questionable.
Yeah.
It wasn't Cam Newton's fault. He got the ball Kelvin Benjamin got the ball in the hands. It was a freak tackle, but he's not 100%. But I think for the most part, the balls are not coming to his hands or where he's running towards. Funchess the same way.
You got to throw guys open.
I think and I like what Curtis Samuels is doing. I like Shepard, Bird. I think these guys all have to be incorporated. Now, is it your opinion, and you may have alluded to this, because our good friend William Wilson made this point, to me anyway, off the air. It seems like to him and me, and maybe some others, that we've got this great guy named Christian McCaffrey, a top 10 pick in the draft. He's so good. He had so much hype. We're going to get him the ball no matter what. And he in some people's eyes, maybe he hadn't earned that type of attention from the offensive coordinator, to where I think if you pound the ball with Jonathan Stewart and establish him, and then maybe once you've softened up the defense, then maybe you can bring in the change of pace and maybe look at it that way.
I think I'm not going to say I totally subscribe to that, but here's what I will say.
I haven't seen any Fozzie Whitaker, by the way, either.
Because I think there's a point to that, and I think the point has become they have talked so much potentially, and we've heard it in the media.
I think they've talked themselves into saying we're going to get this guy Rookie of the Year.
Well, that and there was so much conversation about take what they give you, take the check down, take the easy throw. You add that with Cam maybe not being 100% with that rotator cuff, and maybe he's at a situation, Cam himself, to where he's like, I'm going to just take the easy.
But I'm going to tell you this. I heard a report this week saying there were, quote, officials, Panther team sources.
I heard it too.
Cam Newton is breaking down physically.
That's insane. That's insane. That's scary if it's already happening.
Well, look at the offensive line.
That's a fair point.
I mean, that's what I look at. Last year,
he took a beating. And
this year so far, the O-line, in my opinion, has let him down. But that's another story. We were just getting warmed up with Panther discussions. Plus, we've got college football to talk about. We're just getting going right here on Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Reggie Walker, Kevin Casey, Kevin Tolbert behind the scenes as always. Reg, I guess you're feeling a little bit good now with your Penn State Nittany Lions. Woo! In the last second, mind you, beating Iowa. You pointed out before we get to Clemson real quick because we're talking college football. I almost buzzed you. I was thinking about. I was talking to my son. I said, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna say. I said, but something says, that Iowa plays them tough everywhere, no matter what. And,
yes.
But I said, there's something about this game. They've gone up and down the field. I'm gonna wait till the final gun before I do anything.
Dude, there was once a final score between Penn State and Iowa in State College. We lost the football game 6-4. Yes.
Two safety?
Yeah, they gave us one late.
Wasn't a Rouge point.
Exactly. So it just weird things happen when that Iowa football team shows up. And the Kirk Ferentz is such a great coach.
He's a good coach.
He doesn't always have the players. He doesn't always have the athletes. So he finds a way to get to 7 or 8 wins a year. And then when he has the players, you're going to see them win 10, 11 games. I don't know that they have those kind of players this year, but that is always a tough out, especially when you go on the road to Kinnick Stadium.
They had a tough game just like this one last year, and they rebounded and they moved on. Now let's talk about the second best team in college football. People down in South Carolina may think they're number one. The Clemson Tigers, they're number two, and to me, they look pretty darn good. And I think they have the second best defense, maybe the second best offense. I really like what they're doing offensively. Clemson is legit. I don't see anybody right now in the ACC. I'm covering Florida State and Wake Forest this weekend. I did North Carolina and Duke last week. We'll get to Duke in a minute and North Carolina down the line. To me, I think the team that can go undefeated between Duke, Wake Forest, and Virginia Tech is going to play Clemson in the ACC championship game. So I really like what Clemson is doing. But to me, they're the champs, and to be the champs, you got to knock them out.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, listen, the great thing that we're going to see about this football game is it's strength against strength in all aspects, right? So let's think about this. Bud Foster's he was the co-defensive coordinator for, I think, a year or 2 years.
This is a playoff game.
Right, it is.
Virginia Tech, if they win this game, they're in the driver's seat. But I will say this. Clemson has built up enough national gravitas, enough national acclaim. They could still lose and then run the table and find themselves back in it, provided a few things nationally happen in their favor.
No, that's absolutely correct. And the thing about it is, Bud Foster took over this defense full-time as the lone defensive coordinator in 1996. Since 1996, they're first in sacks, third down conversion percentage allowed, interceptions, and they're third in total yards per game under Bud Foster.
He's the best defensive coordinator in college football, with due respect to Brent Venables at Clemson.
And oh, by the way, and that's why I said strength against strength, and oh, by the way, on the flip side of this thing, you look at it, and under Dabo Swinney, they've only had since he's been the full-time head coach for a full season.
They're the highest paid assistants in college football,
They also have only had one season where they scored less than 30 points a game. So you know right there, that defense, Bud Foster's defense, and we saw what he can do when he's got a chance to game plan for a quarterback that can play. He knows how to shut quarterbacks down. He's got some exotic blitz packages. He'll do some things. So I think the interesting piece of this game is going to be Etienne and Feaster out of the backfield. They both have over almost 250 yards plus rushing apiece for this Clemson offense. That's where they're going to have to make their hay on offense. They're going to have to run the football because I guarantee you Bud Foster is not going to let Kelly Bryant beat him.
I really like what Virginia Tech has done so far, but I don't think they've seen anything like the Clemson Tigers yet.
I buy that.
I really like – Tech does not have what Louisville had on offense.
No.
But the Virginia Tech's defense is light years ahead of Louisville's defense.
Oh, yes, they are.
So I really think that Clemson has better offense than Virginia Tech, and their defense, I'd say, is very even with a slight edge so far to Clemson.
And I'm going to tell you another thing.
And I'm a Virginia guy, and I hate to say that.
Fuente is a mastermind on offense. This guy turned a kid in Paxton Lynch, who was a Friends player that didn't even really know how to play the quarterback position at all.
A lot of people
found his way to Memphis.
agree with that.
Found his way to Memphis, and Fuente turned him into a first-round pick. Now, you can say what you want about the kid becoming a first-round pick, but he turned him into a first-round pick. There's a lot of other guys that are just ham and eggers out there with nowhere to play.
Ham and eggers, that's Bobby the Brain Heenan.
That's Bobby the Brain Heenan. That's why I threw it out there.
Rest in peace, Bobby the Brain, by the way.
So you know this offense, and they've been developing. They're playing better and better at the quarterback position at Virginia Tech against this Brent Venables defense led by a front four, front seven that gets after the quarterback.
Those are some studs up there up front.
Versus strength in all aspects of this game. And the key to this thing, ironically, may be in the name of the guy that's actually not going to be there, well, at least with a headset on. I'm sure he'll be in the building at Lane Stadium. It's probably going to come down to special teams and Beamer Ball.
Oh, well, but I don't know, man. That Lane Stadium, what is the college football game day is going to be there?
Game day's there.
Enter Sandman at night.
All of it. You get all of the elements.
I love it. I've covered a couple games up there at night, and I'm telling you, that place is live.
Well, if you didn't live like completely in China compared to my house, not that that's your fault, I'd come to your house, but that's a little bit too far.
That's a long way, man.
Yeah, I live at the bottom of Charlotte. You live at the top.
You live in the high end. You live near Kevin.
No, I live in the low rent district, baby.
Yeah, man, I hear you. Well, hey, I'll tell you who's in the high rent district is the Duke Blue Devils.
Yes, they are.
I've seen them twice this year, last 2 weeks. As a matter of fact, they really put it together in the second half, and they kind of really put it away on North Carolina in the second half. I really like they bent somewhat in the first half, but they did not break. They just kind of rope-a-doped and took North Carolina's punches, and then in the end, they just had too much for North Carolina.
Well, what I like about what Duke is doing, especially in particular that particular game, they said, you know what, we're dealing with youth at the quarterback position on the other side. We're going to make him be patient. And a lot of times young guys or teams that are used to creating a lot of big plays, which a Larry Fedora offense is known for doing, they get impatient. And when they get impatient, they start making mistakes. They start pressing. They start not playing as well. And that's where you can see the bend. But the break never happens because those guys start to panic because they're not getting what they want as easily as they want.
They move up in competition. Friday night start for Duke and Miami. The Hurricanes, a top 20 program, they're ranked, and they look very good right now.
They do. And I'm going to tell you right now, this football game, people don't think about this, but I'm going to tell you what Mark Richt is doing down there with this Miami football team. They are physical. That is a physical bunch on both sides of the football.
Extremely fast.
And they plenty of speed. You know, South Florida guys, they always got speed. And ironically, Duke is a fairly physical football team.
They're very physical.
So we're going to find out right now, as much as we know about Duke, has the old Miami physicality come back and the ability to dominate teams, especially in the trenches consistently. The strength coach down there at Miami, my old teammate at Penn State, Gus Felder, does he have that group, that team, that program to the point to where they can physically dominate their opponents consistently? I think Duke is a pretty good litmus test as they continue to raise their level of competition on a weekly basis.
This is another elimination game.
Yes.
Duke has to Virginia Tech, Clemson, 2 undefeateds. Miami and Duke undefeated. Wake Forest is undefeated. We'll get to them later on. But
I mean, is this separation Saturday without saying
but in the Atlantic Coast Conference, you know, they get. I mean, they have the defending champions in their conference, but the people in the Pac-12 or the Big Ten or whatever the Big 12 is with 10 teams, or whatever they're called these days, the ACC doesn't get much respect out of Clemson and Florida State, and Florida State is not getting any this year.
Well, and I think, unfortunately for Florida State, if DeAndre Francois were still healthy, that conversation would be a little bit different. I think Louisville still Obviously, we saw what happened with them when they played Clemson. They don't have enough defense. They're still trying to put a complete football team together. We know what the Heisman Trophy winner from last year, Lamar Jackson, can do, which, by the way, he's throwing the ball even better this year than he did last year. It's insane.
Outside of that Clemson game, I think he's still going to put up tremendous numbers.
And I thought he played well. I just thought he was running for his life most of the football game. So you start looking at this ACC conference. You look at Wake Forest, what they're doing, and how they played in the non-conference to start the season. They haven't lost a game. You look at Duke and what they're doing. All of a sudden, you look at this conference as a whole. Virginia Tech got some good wins as well. You look at this conference as a whole and let this thing spread out, you start going, wait a minute.
A lot of teams are going to be looking at Justin Fuente. Some of my friends at Texas A&M are telling me his name is being bandied about down in College Station. But we mentioned Wake Forest. I'm working them and Florida State this week, and I like what Dave Clawson's doing. They were behind the 8-ball most of the way up at Kid Brewer Stadium up in Appalachian and Boone. That game was a rivalry game.
Yeah.
App has beaten Wake Forest in Winston-Salem several times over the years. First time Wake has gone up there. So it was a very rowdy atmosphere, a lot of full jars pregame, empty by the time kickoff rolled around.
Oh, yeah.
If you're following me.
Let me tell you something about this Appalachian State football program. Coach Satterfield, and then before that, Coach Jerry Moore. Let me tell you something, and people don't realize this.
They're going to win the Sun Belt,
And prepare to how I say this. They got athletes up in Boone. People don't realize that. People remember Armani Edwards running around. Listen, they got more than just one good football player, 2 or 3 good. They got some athletes up in Boone. I don't know
a couple guys in the NFL, a couple guys in the CFL.
And they find a way to find athletes to get them to that campus. And when I say athletes, I mean exceptional levels of speed, doing some things maybe as undersized guys that you just don't expect them to do. App State has those types of football players. And anytime you have that and you're playing somebody that's, what is it, about 50 miles, about an hour distance from Wake to Boone.
Depends on how fast you're driving.
Depends on how fast, I mean, give or take. So you talk about the proximity situation, kind of a rivalry situation. You got some athletes on both sides, especially from the App standpoint. All of a sudden, you get a good football game.
Now, I think they're going to move up in competition because now you're getting the cream of the crop.
Yes,
5-star guys from the state of Florida.
Yes, sir.
Now, these are guys who are big, strong, and fast.
Now, that's all athletes.
And
not
I'm
just
telling
some.
you, Wake Forest is everybody who played in the state of Florida, maybe Kevin Tolbert.
No, he don't count.
Well, he's injured. He's got that Anderson brothers cast going.
And don't let him fool you. He'll tell you he's from Chicago. He ain't from Chicago.
All right, well.
He's from Waukegan.
Well, whatever that is, they heard they have bowling tournaments up there.
Yeah, that's it. Golf.
But I'm telling you, Wake Forest is a physical ball club. They redshirt guys.
Yes.
They like ball control. They like to move it around. They will spread you at times. They will go heavy package, 2 tight ends, H-back when they need to, and they hit hard. This game with Wake Forest and Florida State, I think they need to keep it close. But Florida State, I don't know who's going to get the ball at. A true freshman, 18 years old. I think if Wake Forest can hit him early and often, this could go the Demon Deacons' way.
The key for the Demon Deacons to me, because I think you make a good point, but the key for me to them is what can their offensive line do against the Florida State defensive front? If they can run the football the way they have been at over 100, well, they've been at about 175 yards a game. If they can get 150 yards rushing in this football game and control the clock a little bit, playing against an inexperienced quarterback on the other side, if they can find a way to get ahead of them and force that kid to make some plays and try to go win the football game, they got a shot in this one. If not, then I think the athletes of Florida State may win this game for them.
They run 2 tailbacks at least, sometimes 3 tailbacks, and they have a fullback and an H-back.
Yes.
So they like power football up at Wake Forest. So we're just going to – we still have the Tar Heels to talk about, the NC State Wolfpack.
Yeah.
Keep it right here. This is Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Kevin Casey along with Reggie Walker. Reg, as we've been saying throughout the program, I saw the Tar Heels. I've seen them twice in action this year. They played better against Duke. They had it handed to them by Louisville with Lamar Jackson. Where do you go if you're the Tar Heels? I mean, they still have a lot of big games on the schedule. They could still get bowl eligible.
But before I answer your question, I got to ask you a question. And I know part of it is it's your job. Why do you keep going to watch North Carolina play defense?
I'm getting paid.
That's the only reason. Because there is no reason to watch that team play defense. They are putrid at best on the defensive side of the football.
They got good pregame food, I'll tell you that.
I buy that.
They got wings this weekend. It was awesome.
Anytime you're bad on defense,
that's important to me, by the way.
But that's key.
Look at me.
But when you're that bad on defense, you're inconsistent running the football, and you got a young quarterback, That's the reason why the record looks like it does. That is not a way to win
But the
football
loss
games.
to Cal, in retrospect now, doesn't look so bad because Cal's a good ball club.
They are.
They lost to an undefeated Duke team. They
did.
lost to Louisville. So those are 3 losses. They beat Old Dominion, not so good, obviously. But 1-3, and those are 3 legit teams that they lost to. So I don't think they're as bad as – I think you're short-selling the Tar Heels.
Well, I think they
don't
got to
say they're all
simplify
that
on
bad.
defense. I think if they simplify on defense, dial back what they're doing, maybe play a little more coverage, zone type of stuff, keep everything in front of them, and start kind of play a little bit more of a bend but don't break style, I think they will improve on defense.
Chasserot at North Carolina, I saw him on a quarterback. He dropped back, he felt some pressure, and then he saw how the defense kind of was, I guess, playing a zone. They all went with their receivers. No, they didn't have a spy on him this play. He rolled like 70-some yards and was running away from guys. A couple of moves, and he's gone. This guy's a good football player.
He is a good football player, and I know the exact play you're talking about. And what that told me was he's recognizing what's going on. Anytime quarterbacks start moving, and I know this as a defensive back, you're taught to plaster, which means latch onto that receiver and go wherever he goes. It becomes a plaster situation. Well, when that happens, everyone's back is turned. If you're a quarterback with the ability to use your feet and you attack that, as you well know playing the game, you can get big-time plays made with your feet if you've got the athleticism to do it. This young guy, Surratt, has the athleticism to do it. We saw it clearly on that play. I think sometimes they've got to do a little bit more of moving his launch point around to help him maybe read half of the field at times and just make it a little bit more simple for him. I think if they can do that for him and improve the defense a little bit, to your point, they've got a chance to do something on the back end of the season and have a decent year.
What hurt them, I think, in the second half, they lost one of their key weapons in Austin Prohl, broke a collarbone, and that really hurt. And to me, they became – I'm not saying that he's all they have in the passing game because they do spread it around. But I think they got behind a little bit, making one of your earlier points about the Panthers. They got behind and they became more one-dimensional.
Yeah.
So they started to throw. They didn't really run the ball as they should, and they have good running backs. Maybe not Elijah Hood or anything like that, but they do have some good weaponry in the offense. But they became more predictable. And once they did that, I thought Duke's defense really stepped it up.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, Coach Fedora is as smart of an offensive mind as he is. I guarantee you, when he went back and looked at that tape, he realized really quickly that he needs to probably diversify some things and do some things a little bit differently.
I don't know what they're going to do long term. I know they have They have NC State on their schedule. They have Miami at home. And they have a game that and by the way, I am working a North Carolina game. Not Saturday, but a week from Saturday when Notre Dame comes to Kenan Stadium. That's going to be a good game. When Notre Dame comes in the house, it kind of brings everybody up.
It does.
Maybe not their reality is not as equal to their mystique from days gone by.
Correct.
But they still bring a lot of fans.
And
they bring name. They bring TV ratings. They're going to bring a lot of places and a lot of they're seen everywhere. Alumni everywhere. The place will be packed.
Yes.
Maybe with a lot of Notre Dame fans, but notwithstanding, Notre Dame's going to bring it, and North Carolina better be ready a week from Saturday.
Yeah, Notre Dame's much improved. They're playing a lot better football this year, up to 3-1, I think, right now. And Brian Kelly, the best part about it with Brian Kelly is if everything's quiet up there, that's a good thing. Because when it's not quiet, that means somebody's mad at him and he's mad at somebody else. And it just gets real interesting in South Bend when Coach Kelly is not happy.
As long as you're not on the scaffold filming practice with Notre Dame.
Or asking him the question about his job security.
I don't like I'll say it straight up. I've talked to the Schwarbrick, their athletic director. I told him at an ACC basketball tournament, I grew up a Notre Dame fan, and I said, I got a keychain.
Yeah.
It's not the one that I have right here. It's one at home, and I haven't used it in a while. It has the 88 National Championship on it. He says, I'm going to try to get you another one. And I said, I don't know if we have the right people in place to do that, but you're the AD and I'm not, and I'll trust you. I didn't want to say it straight up, but I'm not a fan of Brian Kelly. I really am not.
A lot of people aren't. Brian Kelly can be difficult, but one thing you can say about Brian Kelly, if you go back to his track record, he's won everywhere he's been.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to finish our discussion on NC State. Plus, we've got other features coming up. This is Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Kevin Casey along with Reggie Walker. John Tobias off jet setting to BYU and Utah and Temple and Houston, I believe. And we love being here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. We got Reggie, NC State hosting Syracuse. I think NC State's a good ball club, and I really like what they're doing. I think that's a W for NC State over Syracuse.
Yeah, I just think Chubb and that defensive front are going to be too much for the Syracuse offense. And anytime you can dominate, as we talk about all the time, anytime you can dominate the line of scrimmage, you got a chance to be really good.
We got Reggie, I've acquired some, don't ask how, it's kind of don't ask, don't tell, but some gloves I want to give you to give to the
young fellas at Metrolina Christian Academy.
How's the team? How's the Metrolina Christian Academy doing?
Our middle school guys are undefeated. Our JV team took the first loss on Tuesday.
Well, give me the gloves back.
And it was a rough one, but it was a pretty good football
gloves.
team we dealt with. Country Day is a pretty good football team, so took a beating there. But in general, guys are getting better. We're playing well, and things are working themselves out.
All right, KT, we got James here from Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
Yeah, we got to get him a mic. We got to get him a mic. I mean,
our audio guy, Emmy Award winner.
We'll get our.
Can you rescind that? Can you recall that, Reggie? You won a couple.
I mean, there's the mic because I don't know about you, but I love coming to Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. It's always good food.
I saw.
But
online,
I want to know what the specials are for football weekend.
I saw some of my radio people came here. I think yesterday. Jack Daniel, Chuck Boozer, and Christian Honeycutt were all here, having a kind of a radio reunion here yesterday. So they're watching, I'm sure, and listening. And
shout out to Caitlin. She came down for lunch to check us out today too. Well, we love you. Thank you.
But James, we love it. My favorite is the pretzel. Reggie likes the steak nachos.
Yeah.
What are the specials today, and what's going on every day?
Oh man, every day there's a daily special, guys. I'll tell you what. Today we had a blackened ribeye sandwich.
Ooh.
That's the type of thing you want to pair with a Bloody Mary. I cannot get enough of it. I can't have a Bloody Mary on my shift, but if you came down, you could. And why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? That's exactly right.
And I'm a fan. I'm actually from Wisconsin, guys, but this is my new home.
Your Packers are playing tonight.
I know. I'm excited against the Bears. Forget about
Kevin Tolbert's Chicago Bears with Tariq Cohen from what's his name? Tariq Cohen,
Tariq
right?
Cohen.
He's playing great.
He's playing good football.
He's playing really good. I mean, the Bears are looking better than anybody thought. I think.
They're not that. Let's not get carried away.
And I know how much they love their Packers up in Green Bay and all over Wisconsin.
It's a religion.
They moved the start time of the Brewers Reds game from a night game to a 4:10 first pitch because they didn't want to compete with the Packers tonight.
Because they're not going to win.
You have any fried cheese curds? You going to get them on the menu?
I'm working on it. We have Wisconsin's fan club here. All right, the Badgers.
Right.
We're home of the Tennessee Volunteers.
Right.
Okay.
All right, and for that, every Saturday we have mason jar drinks. $5
mason jars. I love that.
Everyone likes mason jar drinks.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about cheese curds.
I like filling them up in the woods, though.
And I tell you, I remember playing at Camp Randall on the road against Wisconsin. It always smelled good pregame because
brats, dude.
Cooking. That's what I'm saying.
Beer brats.
That's some good eating up there, at Camp Randall.
I cannot train somebody how to do it down here. I have to do it myself. I feel like we're working on it.
Well, that's a lifestyle.
It's a religion. It's a religion.
Exactly.
I wrestled in the AWA for a while, and I remember traveling the roads going to A&Ws, and they had the fried cheese curds, man.
Yes, sir.
I have not had them down here. You got to get at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. James, get going with the beer brats. Get some fried cheese curds.
And we know you're a Packer fan, but on Sunday, Panthers, 1 o'clock.
Yeah, Panthers.
At New England.
If fans on home games, they can come here, right? What time do you open? 10?
Yeah, 10. And
you can drink now at 10 o'clock now.
You beat me to it. You beat me to it, I'm telling you. 10 o'clock, $5 or $4 mimosas, $4 Bloody Marys. We do $15 buckets. So let's say you got a group of guys, group of ladies. Why wouldn't you want to get a bucket? You don't have to run the server. The beers are right there, ice cold for you.
A bucket, that's just for Reggie. You need some for your friends.
Did you? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of course, your friends are starting before 10 o'clock.
Did you know we have a free shuttle that goes down to the Carolinas?
I did not know.
To the Bank of
So
America
you don't have
Stadium?
to worry about parking.
So now you don't have to worry about parking.
There's a free shuttle.
It pays for itself then.
And we actually rent out the upper deck of the parking garage right next door. So there's parking everywhere.
That's awesome.
It's free.
Parking's expensive at the stadium. I don't have to worry about
shuttle
it
ride.
a lot, but I hear it's like $50 or something. So you could actually save $50, whatever, $30, $40, $50. Come here and get a free shuttle, eat here,
and get your pregame on.
There's a brunch, $14.95, gets you over 32 different selections.
Jars with you though.
Oh, it's like a buffet?
Oh, yeah, brunch
What?
buffet.
Buffet.
Look,
Omelet
man.
station.
Oh,
What?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I don't know about y'all. I know where I'm going to
media
be.
buffet.
I know where I'm going to be next
Better than the
Panther
media
home
buffet.
game.
I can
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you that. We've also got North Carolina A&T to talk about real quick. I think James, you keep up with Tariq Cohen in the NFL, but I like what North Carolina A&T is doing so far this year. They look like they could go to the Celebration Bowl, if you will.
Yeah. And look, anytime
School and gang do halftime there.
hey, they came over to Charlotte, went to right over here at UNC Charlotte,
Right, Jerry Richardson
Jerry
Stadium.
Richardson Stadium, and opened a can on the 49ers.
Not
And
hard
I'm
to do these days.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that was interesting about it. There
The
was
old Miller Pony Bottle would be all you need.
There was a whole lot of Aggie pride chants going on in there. There's a lot of A&T fans that came down to Charlotte to check that one out, or obviously some that probably live here as well. So, but it's good to see a lot of the programs, especially at the FCS level, having success.
I'd like to see Charlotte maybe looking. I think they're going to have to make. No offense to Coach Lambert, but the results are factual. The record is what it is, and they may need to look at maybe a former North Carolina A&T offensive coordinator, my good friend Joe Pizzo, who's now at North Greenville, offensive guru. You may need to look at his way, Judy Rose. We're going to take a break. James King, Reggie Walker, Kevin Casey from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. We've got from Tour Techniques, our good friend Randy Joyner checks in. More talking about sports right after this.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports. James, Reggie, Kevin here from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. But first, let's talk about the Wells Fargo. Our good friend Randy Joyner from Tour Techniques, trying to work on my golf game. And as bad as I am, I'm still not as bad as you, Reg.
Fair point.
And the Wells Fargo tournament will be back in the Queen City next year, but this time the event will have new leadership. The governing group, Champions for Education, has hired a Florida sports marketing group to manage this event and added Gary Saba as the new tournament director, replacing Kim Huffman, who stepped down last year. Let's hear from Randy Joyner.
Hey guys, Randy Joyner out here at Ballantyne Country Club. Kevin, I hope you're working on that golf game, man. We need to get you out here to play sometime soon. Wanted to give you guys an update on the 2018 Wells Fargo Championship. It's going to be back here in Charlotte. As most of you know, the 2017 tournament was held at Eagle Point out in Wilmington since we had the PGA Championship here this year. So the tournament will look a little different next year with the PGA Championship being in August. The golf course was more of a Bermuda grass, so you had the really thick rough, the Bermuda fairways. It will be an overseeded rye, much like Augusta National is, so it'll go back to what it normally looks like in the spring. They have a new tournament chairman this year, a guy by the name of Gary Saba, and ProLinks, a company out of Florida, is also going to be managing the tournament. So I think they're going to really up their corporate hospitality this year. As far as the players, again, with the way the PGA Tour schedule is, that event is going to be the Wells Fargo Championship will be followed immediately by the Players Championship down at Sawgrass the week after. So you may have your normal guys that love Quail Hollow, and a lot of guys that play the PGA Championship that normally don't play the Quail Hollow event may show up next year. But you'll have your guys like Phil. I don't know that you'll get a Justin Thomas coming back that just won the PGA Championship there. But you'll get a pretty good field, as you typically do, because Johnny Harris is loved by most of the players on the PGA Tour, and they always try to show up for his tournament. But as you get to 2019, things are going to change. So although the tournament is still signed for 2019, there are going to be some changes. The PGA Championship is moving to May, so that's going to shuffle everything around. So the Wells Fargo Championship might be a little earlier, or it could be a little later in the month in 2019. And then coming 2023 starts today. The President's Cup starts today at Liberty National up in New York this year. We're going to have that President's Cup here at Quail Hollow in 2023. So that gives you an update on the Wells Fargo Championship and what's coming up at Quail Hollow the next couple of years. Hope you guys can come out and play. Anytime you want to come out to Ballantyne Country Club, just let me know. We'll get you guys out here. Kevin, we got to work on that golf game, man. We'll see you guys soon.
All right. Well, you notice Randy took a shot at my golf game, so that's and I do need to get down. I need KT. We should have like an ADSN Talking About Sports Open. James, you're welcome to come play. You play golf? They play golf up in Wisconsin?
I try.
All right. Well, we'll get a whole group of guys down there.
Hey, the way he treats us here at Dilworth Neighborhood Grill, he can play with us anyway.
I could outplay you in the snow.
Well,
look, I ain't going outside in the snow. You can have that. I might have went to Penn State, but I ain't from Pennsylvania. You dig?
I hear they do got some. They do have some homemade spirits up there. I've had some from
Yes,
my
sir.
friends up in Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir.
They make that apple stuff.
Yeah.
They make some homemade apple stuff. Oh yeah, man, that's
Little
good.
apple
What
pie.
we love everything here. James from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. You know, Reggie's favorite, of course, is the. What we got here?
Speak of the devil. Oh yeah. You know what? I'll just take this whole plate. I don't share. You know that.
Yeah, I know. That's the Penn State way.
Yeah, you,
Well, we know
you
who's
your
having the pretzel.
Pretzel, yeah, man. You know it, man.
Gotta have a and look. You better get these steak nachos. I'm telling you right now.
Pretzel's good. They got
good
good
man
wings.
food right there.
The pregame, you come here, you got the buffet, the omelet chef.
Free
you got
ride to the stadium.
free ride to the game for our Panther game. If you're a Tennessee Volunteer fan, you can watch the Vols here, the Badgers here. Bucky Badger, you got Bucky Badger in the house on
He pops
game
in,
day.
does a couple push-ups, hopefully more so than.
Penn State play. You play Wisconsin this year, Reg?
Yeah, we do. We do. Actually,
No, we missed him this year.
No, well, I think we're gonna play him because
You're
we're probably
dodging all
gonna
the
see
good guys.
I think we'll see him in the Big Ten championship game.
If that happens,
that might be a
you
little
got
bit
to
of a
come
plug.
down here, Reg. We'll have you in for us.
We're gonna have a push-up competition.
You're probably gonna win.
before that. You think so?
Why are these so good? I love these steak nachos.
Yeah, what do y'all
They have
do
a
with
beer
great-
cheese.
It's what?
It's the beer cheese.
Beer cheese. There you go. And that
Bacon
is
beer cheese.
There you go. Well,
Steak good too though.
James, who's going to win the Panthers-Patriots game? Who you like?
Oh, I have to go with the home. I have to go with the Panthers. So
All
that's
right.
where I'm from.
All
It's gonna be
right,
a tough
Reg?
battle.
Reg? In Foxborough.
I think it's going to be a daunting task. I think the Panthers play well. Going to come down to the last possession. Give me the Panthers by a field goal.
All right. Packers-Bears tonight, James.
Oh, that's no question. I mean, that's a blowout.
All right. He's going. You're taking the Packers. That's the Packers. In case you didn't know.
One word. I'll spell it out.
Can you do that at Penn State?
R-L-A-X.
Is that Rolaids?
Relax.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers.
All right. Monday Night Football. Redskins at the Chiefs. Hail to the Redskins. For John Tobias, who's
My
spanning
condolences.
John Tobias spanning the globe at Utah and BYU, Temple and Houston. For James, Reggie, I'm Kevin Casey. For Kevin Tolbert from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill, this has been Talking About Sports.
Shout out Steve.
Thanks, guys.